Your $80,000 salary is a lie. You think you earn $40 an hour. You don't. After taxes, benefits, commuting, inflation, stress, and all the invisible costs nobody taught you to count, your real pay is closer to $14 an hour. That's not an opinion. We're going to do the math together. If you make $80,000 a year, the so-called middle-class dream, your true hourly wage isn't what you think it is. I know your brain is already trying to argue with me, but don't click away, because once you see the numbers, you'll understand why it still feels like you're doing everything right and not getting ahead. Here's the trap almost every professional falls into. You go to school, you get the degree, you land the job. Maybe you start at $55K, then $65K, then $75K, and finally you hit that magical number, $80,000 a year. Your parents relax. Your friends say, "Dude, you're doing great." LinkedIn tells you you're on track. And yet, your checking account never seems to grow. Your savings feels fragile. Every unexpected expense feels like a punch to the throat. You're not drowning, but you're not swimming either. You're treading water. And here's the scariest part. You're working harder than ever, but your life isn't getting easier. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something important. You're not bad with money. You're not irresponsible, and you're definitely not alone. You're trapped inside what I call the net zero salary. My name is Chris, and I use math to expose the middle-class traps that keep smart people broke and engineer the exact blueprint for your financial exit. If you're someone who earns a good salary, maybe between $70K and $120K, but still feels like every year gets tighter instead of easier, this channel is for you. Hit the subscribe button, and if this video helps you see your money differently, give it a thumbs up. It tells the algorithm to show this to people who actually need it. Let's make this painfully real. Meet Mark. Mark is not irresponsible. Mark is not bad with money. Mark actually thinks about his finances more than most people. Mark is 32 years old. He has a bachelor's degree. He works in operations for a mid-size healthcare company. He's salaried, W-2 employee, respectable job title. And Mark earns $80,000 a year. On paper, Mark looks like he's doing everything right. So why does his life still feel tight? Let's walk through Mark's money the same way it actually flows, not the way it's marketed. Mark's offer letter says $80,000 annually. That number feels big because your brain anchors to it. But here's what nobody explains. Gross salary is a theoretical number. It's not spendable. It's not real-life money. It's a starting point for extraction. Before Mark ever sees his paycheck, the government gets paid first. Let's break it down. Federal income tax, state income tax, Social Security, 6.2%, Medicare, 1.45%. Combined, Mark loses about 27% of his gross income. That's $21,600 gone automatically. No negotiation, no opt-out, no conversation. So Mark's real starting number is no longer $80,000. It's $58,400. Already, more than 1/4 of his labor has disappeared. That's January through March gone. Now comes benefits. Mark's employer proudly tells him, "We offer great benefits." What that actually means, health insurance premium, dental, vision, basic life insurance. Mark's share about $450 per month. That's $5,400 per year. Now pause. Notice how this is framed. It's never called a pay cut. It's positioned as responsible adulthood. But mathematically, it's another extraction layer. $58,400 minus $5,400 equals $53,000. Mark hasn't spent a dollar yet, and he's already lost $27,000 from the headline number. Mark does what every financial blog tells him to do. He contributes 10% to his 401k. That's $8,000 per year. Now, this is important. I am not saying this is bad. I'm saying it's not usable income. It doesn't pay rent, lower stress, create flexibility, or reduce dependence on the job. So for lifestyle reality, that money is gone. $53,000 minus $8,000 equals $45,000. This is the moment many people feel gaslit, because Mark feels like an $80,000 earner, but his life is operating on $45,000. After taxes, benefits, and retirement, Mark's bi-weekly paycheck is about $1,730. That's roughly $3,460 a month hitting his bank account. This is the number that actually runs his life, not the $80,000. This is the number that pays rent. This is the number that creates stress. This is the number that creates freedom. Mark rents a one-bedroom apartment. Nothing fancy, no luxury building, no skyline views. Rent $1,650 a month. Add renter's insurance, $20, utilities, $140, internet, $75. Total housing cost is $1,885 per month. That's over 54% of his take-home pay. And we haven't touched food, transportation, or life yet. Mark drives to work. His commute is about 35 minutes each way. Here's the real monthly breakdown. Gas, $220 per month. Insurance, higher due to mileage, $90 per month. Maintenance, tires, oil changes, depreciation, about $180. That's $490 per month or $5,880 per year. But here's what people miss. Transportation isn't just money, it's time extraction. Mark spends almost 6 hours a week just driving to and from work. That's unpaid labor. There are also work-required expenses. These aren't luxuries, they're job compliance costs. Work clothes, shoes, grooming, haircuts, coffee, lunches near the office. Mark spends about $250 a month here. That's $3,000 a year. Now do the math. $45,000 minus $5,880 transportation minus $3,000 work expenses, Mark's remaining usable income is $36,120. That's it. That's the money supporting his entire life. Now let's talk about hours. Mark is full-time, but full-time doesn't mean 40 hours. Let's count. 40 working hours, 6 hours commuting, unpaid lunch breaks, after-hours emails, and weekend anxiety. Mark realistically gives 50 hours a week to his job. That's 2,600 hours per year. Here's the moment everything clicks. Take Mark's usable income, $36,120, divided by 2,600 hours, equals $13.89 per hour. That's the truth. Not his salary, not his job title, not his LinkedIn headline. His life wage. This is the net zero salary. Not what your employer pays, what your life actually earns. At this point in the video, your brain is pushing back. Not because the math is wrong, but because the math is uncomfortable. You might be thinking, some of those expenses don't count. I'd still need clothes even if I didn't have this job. Okay, but my salary will go up over time. And look, those reactions are normal. That's your brain trying to protect your identity as a successful professional. But here's the problem. The system doesn't care why the money leaves. It only cares that it does. If an expense exists because of your job, then it's part of the job's cost, whether it feels fair or not. Work clothes aren't optional. Commuting isn't optional. Being presentable isn't optional. They're not lifestyle choices. They're compliance costs. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people never see until it's too late. Raises don't fix this. They just change the numbers. Every raise triggers what I call lifestyle delta, the silent expansion of obligations that grows just fast enough to eat the increase. You move from a studio to a one-bedroom, from a one-bedroom to a nice one-bedroom, from a paid-off car to a newer one, from cooking at home to DoorDash because you're busy. None of these decisions feel reckless, they feel earned, but each one locks in a higher fixed cost, and once a cost becomes fixed, it owns part of your future labor. This is why someone making $120,000 a year can feel just as stressed as someone making $60,000. The numbers are bigger. The pressure is the same. Different income, same extraction logic. Different lifestyle, same net zero outcome. This isn't a budgeting problem, it's not a discipline problem, and it's definitely not an intelligence problem. It's a cognitive bias problem. Your brain is wired to anchor on gross salary, the biggest, cleanest, happiest number in the equation. $80,000 sounds safe, sounds adult, sounds like you're winning. That number becomes your identity. I'm an 80K professional. But your brain is terrible at subtracting invisible costs. It doesn't naturally account for time lost commuting, mental energy drained by constant availability, stress carried home every night, opportunity cost of locked-in expenses, flexibility you traded away without noticing. Those costs don't show up on a paycheck, so your brain ignores them. And institutions know this. Banks don't advertise total interest paid, they advertise monthly payments. Only $499 a month. Employers don't talk about time extraction, they talk about annual salary. Media doesn't discuss net usable income, they celebrate gross milestones, 6 figures, top 10%, above average. Because as long as you think in gross numbers, you never question why your life doesn't feel richer. You never audit where your time actually goes. You never ask whether the deal is still worth it. You just assume the problem is you. And that's the most expensive misunderstanding of all. Because once you start thinking in net reality instead of gross fantasy, the entire system looks very different. And that's where the real leverage begins. Let me flip your perspective. Mark buys a reasonable car, $480 a month, 5-year loan. Most people think that's a $28,800 car. Wrong. That $480 is after-tax money. To net $480, Mark must earn about $660 gross. Over 60 months, that car costs $39,600 in labor. Now here's where it gets scary. If that $480 were invested at 7% instead, in 30 years, that single car choice is worth over $580,000. One normal decision, $500,000 in lost optionality. That's the opportunity cost, translated into beginner English. All right, now that we've torn the illusion apart, we need something to replace it, because awareness without a framework just creates anxiety. So here's the rule that changes everything. I call it the exit ratio. Your fixed lifestyle costs must stay under 50% of your net usable income, or your salary will always be net zero. Let me translate that into normal human language. Your life has two kinds of spending: fixed costs, the bills you can't easily change, and flexible costs, the ones you actually control. The exit ratio only cares about the fixed stuff, things that lock you into needing your job every single month: rent or mortgage, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments. Not gross income, not retirement money you can't touch. Usable income, the money that actually hits your checking account and runs your life. Here's why this matters. If more than half of your usable income is already spoken for before the month even begins, you're not choosing your job. You're trapped by it. You can't negotiate. You can't take risks. You can't walk away. Your time is already owned. And that's the difference between earning a salary and being rented by one. This is not about deprivation, it's about control. Here's how you start reclaiming it. Step 1. Calculate your true hourly wage. Forget your salary for a moment. Take your usable income, the money that actually supports your life. Now divide it by all the time your job consumes, not just the time you're clocked in. That means work hours, commute, unpaid lunches, after-hours availability, mental load you carry home. That final number, that's your life wage. It's uncomfortable because it's honest, but it's also freeing because now you can compare every decision against reality instead of marketing. Step 2. Kill the biggest leaks first. Most people start in the wrong place. They cut coffee, they skip vacations, they stress over groceries. That's backwards. The biggest leaks aren't small purchases, they're time sinks. Commute over 30 minutes? That's a pay cut you accept twice a day. Car payment? That's future labor pre-sold at a discount. High-stress role with low autonomy? That's burnout interest compounding, silently stealing energy you could use to build your exit. If you fix one big leak, you do more than cutting 100 lattes. Step 3. Increase velocity, not just income. Here's the shift that changes everything. Freedom doesn't come from earning more money. It comes from velocity. Velocity simply means how fast does money turn into options. Two people can earn the same income, but the one with lower fixed costs builds freedom faster. Lower fixed costs equals less pressure. Less pressure equals better decisions. Better decisions equals faster exits. This is why some people escape in 5 years and others never do, no matter how much they earn. Step 4. Build one exit lane. This is where people overcomplicate everything. They try 5 side hustles, endless certifications, constant optimization. That just recreates the same trap with more effort. You don't need more work. You need one exit lane. One skill you can sell. One asset you can grow. One scalable path that isn't tied to your employer's permission. Not to get rich overnight, but to reclaim leverage. That's how net zero becomes net positive. This video isn't telling you to quit your job tomorrow. It's telling you the truth most people don't see until they're 55. You're not underpaid, you're over-extracted. And once you see the math, you stop blaming yourself. You stop chasing raises blindly, and you start engineering your exit on purpose. If this made sense to you, watch this next.